Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our Microsoft Copilot Separate Hype from Reality webinar. I'm so excited to host you today. My name is Brendan Ruby, and I work for Celentive as a Strategic Relationship Manager. But today I'm going to be your host to bring to you a very special product known as Microsoft Copilot, which is a cutting-edge AI product that we're integrating into our business operations. I'm very proud to be able to be here to present to you two industry-leading experts today. But before we get into that, let me just warm you into some things as we can see some people logging on. So there's going to be two components to our webinar today, and two of our speakers are industry-leading experts in each part of these. So one is our Microsoft partner, Phil Meyer, and the other is one from Celentive, our own, that will be Peter Watts. So Phil will be speaking about how to secure your business AI with Microsoft Copilot, and then Peter's going to talk about how to unlock Copilot's true value by assessing your company's digital maturity. So this webinar actually complements our live event that we had right here at the Microsoft head office about a month ago, where we filled out a room of about 80 people and we delivered a very similar presentation, which was very well received, which is why now we felt the responsibility almost to bring it to you in a digital format so that everyone can access it all over the world. So let me tell you a little bit about who Celentive are before we move on. So we are a digital consultancy agency, digital technology consultancy agency, and we take a strategy first approach to digitally transforming your business. We are a proud Microsoft partner as we work with valued clients and our team of experts and analysts to determine the right digital path that aligns with your business objectives. For over 30 years now, we have built a strong reputation as digital transformation leaders, working with key industries such as the insurance, finance, not-for-profits, and professional services. So the purpose of our webinar today is going to help you assess your organization's digital maturity to build a strong data foundation and align your business objectives with Copilot's capabilities. We'll also discover how to discover and overcome common challenges and accelerate your journey to become a Copilot-powered enterprise. So a few housekeeping things before I introduce our guest speakers today. There's going to be a Q&A and poll section in the top section of our webinar. So if you go up to the chat, you'll see some polls there. Go and have a look and give us a bit of input about where you're at with your digital maturity, or maybe if you've given Copilot a try or not. You can also go to the Q&A section and ask us some questions live in real time, and we'll get our experts here to answer those for you. Any questions that aren't answered, we will follow up with our recording after this webinar. So allow me to introduce our speakers today. We're going to have Phil Meyer, who is from Microsoft himself. He's had over 34 years as an expert in Microsoft, and he's going to be here to be the one presenting all of Copilot's really deep intricacies and all the foundings and new ways of, I guess, integrating it, because it's such a fast-paced, product at the moment. So he is a partner technology strategist at Microsoft, and he helps service providers architect secure, scalable, and hybrid solutions based on Microsoft technologies. Our second speaker is going to be Peter Watts, who is the Chief Technology Advisor at Celentive, and he's going to be talking about the digital maturity and making sure that you're ready for that. Peter is a tech enthusiast with a passion for innovative yet pragmatic technology strategies and solutions. Fueled from these passions, he takes a pride in supporting commercial objectives, driving transformation, adaptation, growth, and profitability. Guys, it looks like most of you have come into the lobby now, so I won't take up too much of your time so we can get to the nitty-gritty details of what we're going to present today. So without further ado, I'll bring on our first speaker, Phil Meyer.
Thanks, Brendan. And I do appreciate you made a very conscious effort there of making sure the pronunciation of my surname was right. We did practice it. I often get Meyer instead of Meyer, so I really appreciate that. I do want to also show some appreciation for the land on which we're gathered today, which is the Camaragal land. Some of you may know the region that is Camaray, which clearly has forbearance to and respect to the Camaragal people of this region. And so with that, I do want to pay respect to the original custodians of this land and to the elders past, present, and emerging of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait communities that might be gathered online or in person today. With that, I'll move on to the topic, which is in and around AI, hype and reality. You may notice that I titled this particularly around security, secure business. It is an area that you'll see trickles and percolates much of the conversation we'll be having in my brief 20 minutes with you. And it's timely that we are in the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So very important, there's a lot happening around cybersecurity, a lot of events, a lot of discussion. There's recently been a new digital report produced by Microsoft that you may wish to better understand what's going on with nation state actors, the cyber criminals that are out there, the different impacts of artificial intelligence around AI, both that being used for defense and that being used, unfortunately, for attack purposes as well. But bringing back to the theme here in and around AI in the workplace, I draw your attention to a little URL that's up on the screen, which is that aka.ms/WTI24, which is our work trends index for the year 2024. Actually, it's the last 6 months of this year. And you might be surprised to learn that 75% of the people surveyed, and they work individuals, they're out of the LinkedIn community across 31 countries, 75% of people at work are using some sort of AI today. Probably consumer grade AI rather than business grade AI. And so that's a big number, and there's been a massive wave of adoption in that last 6 to 8 months. So what do you think is the number of users out there in Australia, if that's our global numbers? And maybe you'll take a moment now to maybe give me a thumbs up if you think it's more than 75%, and maybe less if you think it's less than 75%. Use the little smiley face reaction icon. No, not the hands up icon. I saw somebody do that. Somebody do great, we're getting some thumbs up. And we're also getting some smiley faces. So we're getting a bit of a balance. So I'll get to the answer for you. It's 84%. So in Australia, we're seeing you are the most users of AI in a workplace today. So that's generative AI. You're using prompting to create, to be more productive, to summarize information. And I'm pretty confident that many of you are using it in the context of what used to be called shadow AI, shadow IT, what we would now call shadow AI, or bring your own AI to work. And in that context, I'm pretty confident that many of you are using a consumer grade product rather than something that's conscious of security, safety, compliance, and governance. And maybe I've got a couple of diagrams I'll go through to better explain what I'm trying to get at there. So this first diagram represents really what happens when somebody brings their own AI to work. In that environment, they're taking potentially information from your business and sharing that in a prompt, adding it to the prompt, to that AI engine. Now that AI engine, being consumer grade, loves to take the information that's given to use it for future queries, to use it in future discussions with you and with others who decide to use that information. Classic examples of this would be things like ChatGPT, which I'm sure many of you have already used, or Gemini, which is another one. So there's a number of out there really, really great tools for doing things like holiday planning, for doing things like writing poetry. But if you're taking confidential documents, your email inbox, confidential spreadsheets with customer lists, I just don't recommend you use that such that other people can query that information. And many of you probably do know of those examples. If I said Samsung, give me a thumbs up if you know the Samsung. There's a couple Samsung examples. So in the Samsung example, what happened for those who didn't put the thumbs up, what happened there was a programmer at Samsung took the information, a programming code, and gave it to ChatGPT to try and enhance that code. Unfortunately, about 2 weeks later, somebody asked the same large language model, how do I hack Samsung? And they were able to use code fragments out of that to give them guidance on how to do it. Another example of where you've got to be concerned is this thing called hallucinations. So you might have heard about the case in North America where a lawyer making representation asked ChatGPT, give me some evidence, give me some precedent specifically, particular to this particular matter. Took it to the court the next day, and the judge said, where'd you get that from? That just is not something that exists as precedent for this particular matter. And of course, the lawyer said, I got it out of ChatGPT, and the judge, somewhat aware of AI, said, it's made it up. I'm sorry, that's an hallucination. It's not something you can use as a case. So again, please be conscious of staff. I'm kind of asking you as leaders in your business to be having a discussion with your staff about being conscious of use of this technology against your business data, against their emails, against the spreadsheets, against the contracts that exist inside your business. Great. Have fun with it, writing poetry, writing nursery rhymes, doing holiday planning, but not when it comes to work. Okay, Phil, so now I'm a little concerned. How can I address providing secure usage of this wonderful technology I'm hearing around AI? Well, how about this as a model? Now, I know I've got it titled a better model, but of course, who do you think makes the better model? Yep, no surprises, Microsoft. So that better model is simply using your Microsoft 365 subscription and all the controls that come in that bubble, that first bubble of information, to ensure that the data in your business, your spreadsheets, your documents, your PowerPoint, your email, your Teams conversations, your SharePoint site, your PDF files inside your bubble stay within your bubble, but can still leverage a large language model, OpenAI, the same one that ChatGPT uses, to give you insight, creativity, summarizations, and so on. But that model, that large language model, doesn't remember the information it's been given. It's not trained on your information. Your data is your data, and it stays within your bubble. One of the other great benefits that comes along with this better model is the idea that you can have bubbles within the bubble. So the bubbles around your HR department. You don't want everybody in your business being able to see everything in the HR system, those new recruits, the potential candidates. Similarly, I'm sure as a senior leader in the business, there's things you're working on that you don't want the rest of the staff to see. If you've got a research and development department, you absolutely want to make sure that anything you're working as confidential material isn't visible to the rest of the business. And maybe you've even got a legal department that's working on contracts, compliance. This area too needs to be secure in its own bubble. So within that major bubble, which is your Microsoft 365 tenancy, think about the bubbles in your business, and please work with the Solentive team to ensure that you've got those set up as you apply this generative AI called Copilot into that environment. I've got a little video for a bit of fun that just gives you some insight into that productivity and creativity that can be attained by using this sort of technology. That's a nice little video that I think does a good job of summarizing some of the areas that you see embedded inside the Microsoft 365 applications. You saw creating a PowerPoint presentation from an existing document. You saw summarizing a meeting with inside that. Catching up on multiple meetings. I mean, today it seems that nobody respects our calendars anymore. So being able to follow a couple of meetings and then attend one which is of importance. We do make different copilots. Copilots are trained to particular personas in a particular business. So if you're a knowledge worker, which is the main theme of our conversation today, which is the knowledge worker, somebody who's creating documents, summarizing documents, creating presentations, looking at spreadsheet material, looking at their email, having Teams conversations in a general knowledge worker context. But there are other flavors of Copilot which are trained to the sorts of options that you see on the slide here. Somebody who's in a customer service call center scenario, being able to use the Copilot to assist them in multilingual conversations. Somebody in a sales function, being able to draw on data out of first party and third party CRM systems. Maybe you use Salesforce today. Maybe you use Dynamics or HubSpot. One of a myriad of different CRM systems that exist, being able to connect into that data and draw that data in an intelligent way with a respectful way around sales, a knowledgeable way around sales, into those spreadsheets, into those PowerPoints, into those team conversations. Somebody who's an IT professional trying to manage the infrastructure, using the technology to create virtual machines, to create networks, to create databases. A security analyst who's trying to understand the threats that are attacking their organization, to use generative AI to ask more about what those threats, give them insights to those threats, give them ideas and steps to take to remediate and address and protect their organization better. And a big one is the developers. I'm not sure how many developers we've got on the call today, but the developer was the first one Microsoft did. And you might ask, why would Microsoft do developer first? It's actually called GitHub Copilot, because 60%, which is about 60,000 Microsoft employees are developers. It's the bulk of our employee base is that developer. So it's the first area that we applied the generative AI technology, that partnership with OpenAI, the same people who make ChatGPT in partnership. It's the first place that we applied that technology. If we look at this slide, I'll go back one. If we look at that slide, which is pretty busy, you might have to lean into your monitors to have a closer look at it. You can see that spread of different Copilots. You can see the various different Copilots that come as freestanding products. Up there on the left-hand side, you see the one that is the focus today, Copilot for Microsoft 365. You see those ones that I've kind of alluded to in the previous slide around customer service, around sales, and even finance. So somebody who's in the ERP space. You can see security as well. Up on the right, you'll see a light blue one, which is the Microsoft Copilot. It doesn't have 365 in it. That's the one that we make available for free. And it's wonderful little technology that you can use as a consumer. In fact, it's on my phone. So if I pull out my phone, I've got Copilot downloaded as an app on my phone. It works on Android, it works on iPhone as well. And it's wonderful, the improvements that have been made to being able to use that to get great insights in your personal life. So if you want to, again, write poetry, if you want to get, as I did the other night, insight to a particular wine, I took a photo of the wine bottle and Copilot said, I know that wine, it comes from South Australia, it's this particular, it goes with this particular meat as well. Now I could have read the back of the label, but it did give me a little bit more information than was on the back of the label as well. So Copilot is great. Wonderful for holiday planning a trip with my wife to Italy, and it's given us some great insights on places to stay for 1, 2, 3 days and sites to see. So yeah, that one's a free one. And you can actually use that against your work information for free as well. But the one I'd encourage you to work with Solentive on is turning on that Microsoft 365 Copilot, which gives you other layers of capability. And maybe a good way to see that is through this little video I've got here, which is an example of how Copilot built into Microsoft Teams really brings you that productivity, that ability to address that situation where you've got multiple demands for your time, people not respecting your calendar, and maybe I'll let the video play because I think it does a good job of explaining it all.
Imagine you have an appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review. What if you could do both? With Copilot, you can opt to follow a meeting. After the meeting ends, Copilot will summarize what you missed. You'll get a notification in Teams when the recap is ready. This recap will highlight content that was shared, summarize notes, and any action items for you or others whose names were mentioned. You see that one of your customers was discussed, and you want to learn more. You can ask Copilot clarifying questions, and it provides a detailed response. It can tell you why a certain decision was made, and gives you helpful context. You can even ask Copilot what other solutions were considered, and it provides citations from the transcript so you can see where Copilot drew these conclusions. It's a huge time saver. So that was pretty cool. But the real magic of Copilot happens during a live meeting. Let's say you're in a meeting with your team. You can ask Copilot to summarize the meeting so far. You can see how it summarizes who said what points were made, and it's really capturing the spirit of the discussion. And as the meeting progresses, you can check in on where people stand. You can even ask Copilot what questions are unresolved. It's just amazing to see this happen in real time during a meeting.
So that's a great little video, the one on Teams. You saw it in the two parts there, one where you're actively participating in a meeting, where you've turned up a little late to the meeting and you're doing a recap into that conversation. You saw the follow me option. So I'm not able to attend the meeting. You can press the follow button and it sends you an email to say, yep, the meeting's concluded. Here's a recap. Here's all the speaker. Here's the video. And then you can start to ask questions. I really like some of the questions that in the prompts, as they're called, when we talk to generative AI, the prompt there that was about what were unresolved matters. That's a really good one to look at when you're late to one of those meetings, or even in a meeting, what's unresolved. One I like to use is what tension occurred in the meeting. That's an interesting word, that word tension, because it's both got very much literal context of where somebody said, I disagree with that, I agree with that, I think that's a delightful outcome. They're all sentiment, but it can also pick up tone. Those things like sentiment. If I said to you, that was great, or well, that's great, same words, different tone, it can actually pick up that difference in tonality and sentiment expressed, even though they're the same words. Look, if you're interested in looking at some more demonstrations of how the Copilot technology might be able to increase your efficiency, creativity, quality of work, productivity, all up, we have got that QR code that you can go to, or if you can't scan that, it's really easy to find. It's on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Microsoft 365 Copilot playlist. So particularly put the word playlist in there and you'll get a playlist down, or you'll get a number of responses, but look for the one that says playlist. I think there's about 76 videos there now, which give you demonstrations of Teams, prioritizing your email in Outlook, using Word, using Excel. This Teams video we just showed you is also in that list if you want to share it with your colleagues. It also goes into some other very exciting areas around where you can bring data from existing systems. And I've got a little video on that coming up shortly that shows what the true power of that is, to extend Copilot beyond the realms of that first bubble, which is your business bubble, but into those third-party databases and first-party databases. We get a bit carried away on that because it's a very exciting opportunity. But closing off on the knowledge worker aspect, look, this work trend index that I mentioned earlier is something we run on every 6 months. And so when we look back at May, there were some things that were covered there around what people wanted. And this is May 2023, early days of generative AI. The sorts of things individuals in that survey identified about desires to increase their productivity. Well, in November, we had an early access program to Copilot. That's November 2023. We showed some early experiences. Now, Copilot didn't get released to the general public until January this year, 2024. But those early adopters expressed things like 68% improvement in quality of work, 70% increase in productivity. And when we decided to stop the early adopter program, 77% of them said, don't take this away. We even offered them a free lunch once a week, and 77% said, no, keep your free lunch, keep your McDonald's, keep your KFC. I want to keep using Copilot because it is of such significant value to them in terms of creativity, productivity, and efficiency. Now, part of that efficiency does come down to writing good prompts. This isn't just like writing a search, and I'll let this video play to give you an essence of what I'm getting at.
Limitless possibilities all start with a prompt, and writing good prompts unlocks the power and potential of Copilot. So, what's a good one? Let's start here. Remember, prompts are like instructions you give Copilot, and Copilot can give you an answer with this prompt, but let's provide a clear goal and make it specific. Okay, next, we'll give some context, like who the speech is for, or the tone you might want. This is looking a lot better already. Then we're going to guide the response, adding keywords or maybe even a document for Copilot to reference. Okay, lastly, it's always important to review and revise. Check your results to make sure they're correct, or regenerate and Copilot might craft a response you like even more. And know that your initial prompt doesn't have to be perfect. It's just the beginning. Follow up and ask Copilot to be more specific. Add something that's missing, or find an analogy to help explain something. Getting the most out of Copilot is really like having a conversation. Wherever you Copilot, these tips lead to better prompts. And better prompts help you get the results you want.
So I think it's a wonderful video, that, and it says so much about the difference between searching, where you get a list of blue lines back, to getting really clear answers, but it does take you asking smart questions to get those smart answers. And those who are asking the smart answers and using the technology effectively are seeing these sorts of results. And if you get those sorts of results, 10 hours a month, delivering those sorts of savings to your business, it actually pays for that Microsoft 365 Copilot, the one in Teams, the one in Outlook, in Word, Excel, where it's baked in and it's so natural to use. It pays for itself in about six weeks, just 6 weeks. It's a very rapid ROI in and around Microsoft 365 Copilot, and where people are breaking the habits from doing search, and that's a challenge. And the Solentive team have a number of different ways to help you break those habits with your staff from using search engines and using this sort of technology to realize these sorts of returns. Now, I did mention earlier, and I had to stop myself because I am absolutely so enjoying this. And the more and more that I meet customers through the valued partners like Solentive, I'm seeing this value being realized. I was on a call with a group of customers this morning who've adopted this technology, and they were waxing on about how in the trade industry it's helped them better deal with trade. In the healthcare industry, it's helped them. In the recruitment space, how it's helping them do better HR, better recruiting, by linking in to what I mentioned as their systems of record. Now, this is a very simple example. It takes about a minute, but it shows you what this Copilot Studio can do for you to liberate the data out of your databases and bring it into those generative AI conversations.
Copilot Studio is a low-code tool that enables you to create new Copilot experiences across Microsoft 365 through connectors and plugins, all governed through IT. Let's take a common example, travel budgets and expenses, a process that is unique to every organization. Here we are in Copilot Chat. You've seen Copilot quickly and easily summarize documents, like this travel policy. But what if you wanted to know more? Like how much of your team's travel budget is left for the rest of the quarter? Copilot will find information from the Microsoft Graph, but that's only going to get you so far, because the data you're looking for resides in a system of record. With Copilot Studio, you can customize your Copilot to access data from first and third-party sources. Just start by giving your topic a description for what you want it to do. In this case, providing richer details on expense questions. Copilot Studio allows you to tap into any data source, including websites, Azure services, and coming very soon, you can even access and use OpenAI's GPTs from right within the Copilot Studio. And with over 1,100 out-of-the-box options to connect, you can steer Copilot to the right information, in this case, SAP. Since the travel policy is on SharePoint, you can connect that too, so Copilot can keep track of any policy updates. As you can see, we're giving Copilot instructions to let the model know how to generate responses. Once you've completed your customization, you just hit publish. And the best part, IT only needs to build it once and it can be reused across the organization, and you can manage it all in one central place. Now let's go back to the chat to see how Copilot handles your question. You use the same prompt, and just like that, your new customized Copilot gives you the answer you were looking for. Now you know exactly how much budget is remaining. And thanks to the data you just connected, you also know that any new travel needs to be booked before December 30th to stay within policy. The possibilities for what you can create here are truly limitless.
And maybe to understand that limitless, I'd really commend you to talk to the Solentive team, who've got experience on using the Copilot Studio, how to connect that to existing systems of record, your core business systems in your business, and then bring that in, as I say, liberate that data into those generative AI prompts. I'm genuinely seeing that this is such an opportunity for your businesses to do just so much more. I did want to close off on security. It's a little cartoon that I've created to show. I used Copilot to generate this. Who wants to use Copilot? We're all excited about the productivity increases, the quality of work, the creativity that can be attained through generative AI. But I do want to remind us about those bubbles, that first bubble. Using the Microsoft platform, you get that first bubble. By using Microsoft versus other platforms, you also get the bubbles within the bubbles for that security and compliance. You don't get that with any of the other purveyors of generative AI technologies today. There is a lot. I'm not going to talk about all of these, but these are elements that come as part of your Microsoft 365 subscription today. You've got areas there to protect, to watermark, to apply sensitivity labeling, to determine that it's a confidential, highly confidential document, who it can be circulated to, document fingerprinting capabilities that are there, insider risk management. So you've got staff who've been with the company, they've just left, you want to detect what they may have downloaded. There's so much within that those bubbles there that you could consider. In fact, you've already probably bought if you're on Business Premium at E3 or E5. And again, please work with the Solentive team to help you activate some of those services. And this is a great little video which demonstrates the value of activating those security capabilities coupled to a generative AI scenario.
Microsoft 365 Copilot works with the data security controls you have in place for file access, labeling, classification, and data loss prevention. Mario Rogers works for Violet Martinez, and both are on the same team at Contoso. Mario and Violet are also members in the same group working on Project Falcon. Now we'll start with Violet, who's been working with the procurement and contract management teams to sell their partner ReliCloud 1,500 Mark 8 quadcopters. And you can see the file is labeled highly confidential with restricted access, and it describes all the terms in the purchase agreement. Because Violet has access to the file, she's able to search for and find it in SharePoint and Microsoft365.com. And of course, Violet can also navigate to the file's location in the Agreements folder of the project site to find the purchase agreement. So now let's look at Mario's experience. Even though he's on the same team and working on Project Falcon with Violet, if Mario tries to search for the Contoso purchase agreement, he won't find it. And there are a few purchasing documents that he does find without sensitive information, but not the one that Violet's working on. And if Mario knows the location of the purchase agreement and tries to navigate to it directly, it just appears as an empty folder to him. And when Mario launches Word on the web and creates a blank document, then prompts Microsoft 365 Copilot to summarize the Contoso purchase agreement as a reference file, because Microsoft 365 Copilot respects the file permissions of its user, Copilot also cannot access the purchase agreement. Now if we switch back to Violet's screen, because she has permission to access the purchase agreement, she can use Microsoft 365 Copilot to summarize the file. And after a moment, you'll see it created a summary of the purchase agreement, and Violet decides to keep it. Then data security controls for Microsoft Purview discover sensitive information found in the Microsoft 365 Copilot generated content. The document is automatically labeled as highly confidential, and policies are enforced to restrict access to the document.
Yeah, pretty cool. Just see that yellow bar at the top, policy tips, where it had inherited the policies associated with that purchase agreement into the document. So again, we don't learn from your data. We do not train the large language model. Your data is your data. And if you go to the right-hand side of this slide, you'll see that we also protect copyright. If for some reason accidentally your teams in the use of Copilot accidentally generate something that's almost identical or is identical to something that's out there, we will offer to protect that copyright. We will actually help you defend your case as long as we can prove that you've never ingested something that you are having copyright allegations against. So it's a lot to do with what we do in how Microsoft implements in a responsible way AI. In part of that responsibility, we take security very seriously. I'm not sure if you're aware that Microsoft is actually the largest vendor of security technologies in the planet by an order of 10 now. We invest 10 times more than any other security vendor, and subsequently the revenue stream is similarly on par. You can see that it covers much more than identity, and many of you using Azure Active Directory, or what's now called Entry now, for your identities. You may be even using Intune to do application device management. But that area on the right-hand side is a critical element to consider, and really no other vendor offers you this capability around what we call purview, which is that data compliance, security and governance, that automatically labeling documents as confidential, classified and watermarking, and that beautiful integration that comes naturally as being part of the Microsoft 365 family, working with your documents, your spreadsheets, your conversations to apply those sorts of labelings. Yes, you could use a myriad of other products to achieve the same, but the effort required would be incredible and in fact counterproductive to the whole exercise, the amount spent. The security technologies that we offer don't just work in the Microsoft world. You can see there's the AWS icon, you can also see the Google icon, working on iPhones, working on Android, working on iPads, working on Macs, and of course working in the Windows world as well. Look, the opportunities for so many different types of people, roles of people, personas out there are immense when it comes to artificial intelligence, for the application of the security to provide a responsible and ethical implementation of this technology, the opportunities to connect this generative AI, as I mentioned, through the Copilot Studio into other realms of our business, into those core business systems, the warehousing systems, the recruitment systems, your legal matter tracking systems, your ERPs and CRMs, those opportunities. And of course, it will come with some work, applying that compliance and governance, and also looking at how to break the habits that you may have in your staff from bringing their BYO AI into the office as well. But for me, as a 64-year-old member of this industry, part of it for 46 years, I envy you young people at the end of this line. I envy you because you've got some very, very exciting times ahead. Having been in this industry 46 years, genuinely, this is the most exciting time to be part of our industry. I've been through PCs and mini computers. I've been through the internet age. What is possible to increase productivity, quality of work, and achieve that in a responsible way by leveraging things like Copilot is very, very exciting. Very exciting. And I'm sad that I won't be around for many, many years in this industry. I'll probably retire in a few, but I think there is so much to be had out of, so much to be gained about the future we have ahead. With that, I'm going to pass back to Brendan and thank the Solentive and you particularly for the time that you've given me today. Back to you, Brendan.
Thanks so much, Phil. I get you to stay here for
Oh,
just a
okay,
moment.
sure.
Yeah.
No worries.
You're a very wanted person, so before you go, I want to ask you just one really quick question.
Sure.
But firstly, that was incredibly invaluable. I'll get you to step forward too, so that
All
the
right.
viewers can see our beautiful face. So that was incredibly invaluable for me personally, and I know a lot of other people would have got a lot out of that. I think clearly there's some really big considerations around security that seems to be coming up, right? And there was an interesting question I just want to ask you that one of our attendees asked. So this was related to the New York case that you referred to about the fake legal citation. So the question was, how can we be reassured that Copilot won't make things up in its summaries of meetings and documents?
That's a great question. There's kind of two answers to that, two-part answers to that. One, you've already used the word citation. So whenever you're using Copilot, whether it's the free version, it's giving you a reference to where it got that information from. So you would clearly review that link to ensure that it was genuine. Admittedly, the information that's provided to our free version of Copilot is working with verified sites. So we have a verification process. We've got a team of 300 people who are checking the links that would be provided under the free version. In the commercial one, the Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can actually, it's going to direct itself to that first bubble inside your business. So there is a need in your business to ensure that you've got the data in your business with hygiene and make sure that the relevant documents, the right documents exist within the business. So it's kind of two answers are set. There's that broad web-based response, which is we're doing some hygiene ourselves to make sure the links have got citations. We do ask you to check. And then inside your business, where you're working with documents that you have curated and you're managing and ensure are reliable. And I do stress that point because there can be a danger within a business where people have got conflicting views. So again, there's a need to review and consider the responses. But again, that came from Brendan, but that came from Peter. Which one are we going to use in our response?
So it clearly has a bit of a challenge there of being able to us optimize the way we work together to make Copilot really work for us.
Yeah, so that idea that was in that good prompting, review and revise, particularly if you've got two answers, one coming from you and one coming from a colleague that may conflict with one another, you have a responsibility in that to go, right, I'm going to go Brendan's way or I'm going to go Peter's way in terms of the way I craft this thing going forward. Because it sees all of that information. It sees that tension. It sees that resolution that's necessary, and you still are in control. It's not a pilot. It's called Copilot very deliberately. That you are in control to revise and determine that that is indeed the reference points, the citations you want to use.
Wow.
So it's a good question. Thank you for that.
No, well, thank you for your answer. And another term I've heard before was that it's a very, very smart intern. So you got to make sure that you guide it the way you want to guide it as a collective, right?
Yes.
So, well, look, thank you so much. I will get you on at the very end with our other guest, Peter, to do a bit of a collaboration together.
Okay.
But for now, thank you
so
very
much.
And
Cheers.
I will pass you on. So yeah, thanks very much, Phil, for that. Guys, I will remind you that you will be receiving a recording of this webinar so that you'll be able to go through everything that we've gone through. Phil obviously had a lot of very in-depth detail there, so you might want to watch it again. You'll also get the slide deck to be able to get access to all those links and videos that he presented. Now, I won't waste too much time so we can get into more information and more very valuable insight as to whether your business is ready to adopt something as cutting edge as Microsoft Copilot. So I'll introduce Solentive's very own Chief Technology Advisor, Peter Watts, to talk about the ways of working and to assess your digital maturity. Great, Peter.
Thanks,
Come
Brendan.
on in. I'll give you your clicker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Another great talk by Phil. So tough act to follow. So with Solentive, we've got some frameworks and approaches so that you can unlock the value of Copilot in your business. And before getting into those frameworks and approaches, we thought it might be a good idea to start with an example of an organization that went off and just had a stab at Copilot without a framework and without a best practice approach. So then by talking about that, then you'll get more of an appreciation of why these frameworks and best practices exist. So you'll see we do a quick online poll. You'll see that in the chat where you get to share your experience if you've had some great success with Copilot, and we'll share the results with you at the end. So the example, the early adopter, the organization. So this is an organization, we're not going to share the name of who they are, and you'll see as we go through the case study, but why not? And full credit to them, they went out and they had a stab at Copilot, and I'll talk about some of their experiences. And then after that experience that they had, they came to us for help and said, look, please help us out. And so they were very open and transparent with us, which always makes our lives easier in terms of being able to help clients, sort of share with us the sort of the warts and all of what happened, and then that way we can help you in the right way. So who were they in terms of a profile? So they're a mid-sized organization. They are in a highly competitive industry, and so with that in mind, they have very much a growth and challenger mindset. And they were looking, because of their highly competitive industry, they were very keen on innovation and looking to innovation to gain a competitive edge against the bigger fish. So when they saw Copilot, they saw the marketing, the advertising of Copilot, right away they understood it. And right away they could see the value. And they thought, this is tangible AI. Because they've heard about AI in the past, and this was for the first time it seemed like this is real, it can make a difference. And they thought, well, if they jump in and they grab this and they grab it before their competition, they can then get sort of like a first mover advantage in their industry. And because they're not an AI company, they're not a tech company, they didn't want to have to create something, so they were happy to use something off the shelf and be first to do it. So how did they go about this? Well, they thought, well, they want to move quickly. They're quite a young company in terms of a young workforce, and they're very comfortable, digital natives, very comfortable with using various apps and services, and everyone's got their smartphones, and they're using SaaS products, and very experienced and comfortable with that. So they thought, well, we're smart cookies, we can just jump in and have a go. So, and there's very low risk, right? So they thought, well, we'll just buy a couple of licenses and off we go, and everyone in the organization can benefit, but let's not go out and buy all the licenses for everyone. Let's think about how we can approach this. So they did have some structure in terms of how they did it, and they thought, well, let's grab one person who can sort of represent the organization as a whole, and then the sales team, when they heard about this, they got very excited, and like I said, highly competitive industry, very competitive in sales. So sales thought, oh, this would be a huge advantage to them. So they were very keen to get some special attention. So then the organization also nominated one of the sales team to have a go. So they picked these two people and just went in there and had a go. So what happened? And well, pretty early on in the first couple of days and the first week or two, they got some first impressions pretty quickly. They had been using things like, the bring your own AI and the things like ChatGPT, and now they were using it in the Copilot world. And they had a sort of a mixed bag of experience to begin with. And so sometimes when they were using Copilot, it met or exceeded their expectations. And Phil showed you some of those wonderful things, right? When it comes to your Outlook and your emails and your Teams meetings, etc. You can get these amazing things with very little to no effort on your part, other than thinking about asking those smart questions. But at other times they encountered confusion and failure. These things about, oh, I want to use my document or summarize this document, that just wasn't working. The documents just didn't appear, and it wasn't because they had sophisticated security, and they also had some failures around getting some of the answers that they thought that would be possible, and they should be possible. And the sales team in particular, I think, had very sort of specific and bitter disappointments, and they couldn't understand, well, why isn't Copilot acting like an amazing sales assistant that's going to do all my sales admin stuff for me? Why isn't it giving me all these great insights into my leads and my accounts? Why isn't it, when I'm asking it questions, why am I getting all this great context, and why can't it generate all this stuff for me? Why can't it essentially generate all my collateral for me and things like that? So what went wrong? I guess an easy way to think about it is AI, like any automation, what it's going to do, it's going to accelerate and it's going to amplify your existing technology and your existing ways of working and your behaviors. So I'll let you all reflect on what that might mean for your businesses, that you're going to have some things that you do well and things that, well, shall we say, there's opportunities to improve. So let's get specific about some of these root causes of failure. One thing, I guess, to start with, they didn't really consider their digital maturity as a business. I think they were too focused on their own personal sort of comfort with digital as distinct from how mature is their organization digitally. They hadn't also considered, and I'll talk about that on the next slide, they also hadn't really agreed upon their ways of working, and they didn't have defined training in their use of systems. And I think particularly with the digital natives and the younger generations, they think, well, I can use a system, I can just jump on and use stuff. It's easy, right? It's all SaaS products, it's fine, I don't need training. And they are right as far as the how, because a lot of these great softwares that we all use, it's very intuitive as to how to do something. Where the training comes into play is, what features do you use, why do you use them, and when do you use them? And that sort of rigor and sort of having that clarity was missing. And I guess the big thing, and particularly what was driving a lot of the root causes of failure for the sales team, was around their CRM. And fundamentally, this organization wasn't putting the right data into their systems of record. And we say, systems of record being CRM is one. But we would even say, even just SharePoint documents is a system of record. And there's a few things here, I'm not going to read through them all, but as you can see, I guess at the heart of it, the fundamental problem was they effectively had shadow CRM. They did have Dynamics, but they weren't fully using Dynamics the way they should do. And they were missing out on a whole bunch of its features and capabilities, and it set them up for missing out on a lot of these opportunities with Copilot. So fundamentally, lots of the different sales teams members were all doing slightly different things, but they tended to either write all their notes in OneNote, in their own employee OneNote, not even the team OneNote, or they would write it in a paper notebook, They would keep most of their correspondence in email. They wouldn't track it in CRM. And if something came through to do a deal, they'll put it in at the very, very end. And a lot of this was like, well, I'm busy and I'll do these things, these behaviors that I've been used to for many, many years. And it takes time to do those other things, and I'll get to it eventually. And that get to it eventually happened when it really mattered, but it was way too late. And there was lots of context that was missing. So how do you avoid all that? And how do you solve for the digital maturity and these other things we talked about? And I'll talk about ways of working in a moment as well. So I think it can be useful to think about digital maturity as a journey that your organization goes on. And broadly, there are 4 phases. And this is not to say that each phase is sequential and you must achieve exactly one phase at a time, and it's very rigorous in that form. What you'll find with any organization, probably broad brushstroke terms, you could probably classify your organization as predominantly in one area, but you will find that you'll span a couple of different stages of this journey. And you might even find internally business units or teams or even individuals that are much more advanced than others in terms of their maturity. Now, that's not to say that, oh, well, if you're not mature, you can't use anything, right? That's not actually the message here. So the key is, even if you're at the standardized stage, that entry-level stage, you can get those amazing benefits from Copilot. You can get a lot of those things. You're standardizing your systems. If your team's already on Microsoft 365, straight away, you get all those benefits for your email. And all of those things, as you use that using SharePoint for your documents, you're getting all those benefits right away. And all those cite this document, summarize this document, all that stuff will work if you've got your ways of working sorted and you're all using those systems of record and the standard systems. And what you'll find is you'll get great amounts of benefit, but the more digitally mature and evolved you are, the more benefits you'll get from the exact same Copilot, Copilot from Microsoft 365. So then you get to the collaboration stage, and when you're getting some benefits there in the Teams meetings and these great things about sentiment analysis, and Phil was talking about some of those great features, and from the sales team as well, you get the sentiment analysis of a call that you're on, and those great integrations there, and then you get all those summaries and those actions, and all that stuff is quite great. Noting once again, it's important that you have your ways of working sorted, because Copilot can do all of these great things for you and help you accelerate and amplify how you work with those meetings. But it's not going to be able to tell you, because it's your Copilot, it's not there to coach you to say, well, maybe you shouldn't have had that meeting, or people weren't prepared for that meeting. It's really down to the individual staff members. Are you working effectively and productively? And there is a bit of a meme that meeting could have been an email. So that's something where you need to think about as well. And then you can get into the automation stage. You've got Copilot Studio, all those amazing things that you can do there. And like I said, you don't have to nail and perfect every step along the way. You can accelerate through. And almost counterintuitively, you can innovate even if you're just at the early stages of your standardization or early stages of your ways of working. And what we call out there is innovation. If you've got your ways of working sort of established, you can then reflect on your business and think about what are the things that you're doing today in your business. Is it worth accelerating those things? Are those things, should they be automated? Because should those things even exist? And just thinking about, if you had to start your business again today, would you do exactly all the same processes that you've always done in the past? Would you just recreate that? Is your business essentially perfect? Or would you take the opportunity to rethink it from the ground up? And if you've got competitors starting up, right now, what are they going to be doing that's going to be different and innovative? And a useful way of thinking about that, a useful analogy can be thinking about, potentially showing my age, is the telephone, the classic telephone system, where all the developed countries for many, many decades have had this massive copper network of millions of kilometers, trenches and copper cables going to every home and business across the land. And so that's the telephone system. And that's what we've had all along. And yeah, great, we've got smartphones, etc. And that's the next generation. Now, thinking about the developing world, as they need communications infrastructure, do you think they're going to repeat what we did? Do you think they're going to go and dig millions of kilometers of trenches and lay millions of kilometers of copper cables? Or they're just going to go straight to the smartphones. So, think about your business. Where are the copper cables in your business? What would you do differently? So ways of working. There's a fair bit here. You'll get the slides. But what I would say to, think about it in summary, if you've got your digital strategy is what will inform you based on what your business objectives, priorities are. Where should you be investing money in your initiatives? Where should you be investing money in digital so that you're going to make the most impact and get those results and get those outcomes? So while you're investing in digital and you're doing all these great things and getting your Copilot licenses and doing your transformation, you need to think about people in the purple, process in the green, and the technology in the red. So thinking about and we approach it as at Solentive, we're very much about people, process, and technology, and it's important to start with the people. How are they making those decisions? Are they aligned to your commercial objectives? Are they working in the right way in terms of how they make decisions? And what capabilities and skills do they have? Have you set them up for success? Do they have all of the skills they need to do that? And that would be, hard and soft skills. And then you've got the people component, then thinking about the process. So things like collaboration and how they communicate. Because it almost doesn't matter initially whether you're using Teams chat, Teams voice, a Teams meeting, you're writing an email. That is a secondary consideration. What you need to start with is how are they collaborating? What's the most effective way to communicate in a timely fashion for the amount of information? How is it best for them to work together? And then once you sort that out, then you can pick the tool, the technology that will support that. And as part of also choosing the technology is making sure that you have an adoption process. And so that people are brought along the journey, people have given the right skills and they understand how, and there's the how element of the system, but it's the why, the what, and the when. And then you've got the technologies that you have. What are your systems of record? And that will inform you, about how you connect things up and what's possible. And that should be leading to your outcomes. So another online poll that you can look at and have a think about, who here has a defined ways of working and to what degree is that? And once again, we'll share those results with you at the end. So thinking about, the people in the process and all these ways of working, who should be involved? And so in our experience, this is our recommendation for a best practice for who you want to engage, who the stakeholders are in your business that you want to engage. And I think the key thing is that this should be business-led projects, not IT-led projects. And IT plays an important supporting role, but it's for the business for these business outcomes. So it's important to have a project sponsor, a business champion, someone from this more senior side of the executive or the management team, that they are involved in the process. They are the ones to make sure that it has the right direction, that it's aligned with strategic objectives. They can make sure that the right funding gets allocated to it and remove any roadblocks and help with the resourcing. Then you've got the people and culture and the process leads. The people that you have today, they're already doing this in a different way. They're doing this for your sort of core business and your core service or product that you're doing. It's just a matter of complementing that with some extra things around these ways of working and on the digital front as well. And then you should include the operational managers, someone to represent operational managers and staff, because they're the people who have to live with it day to day, and they can provide great feedback into what's been working and what isn't working. And of course, IT has a supporting role. So I will note, you'll see a mention of an AI council. Microsoft have a really great adoption playbook and success kit, and they talk about an AI council. These are the people that we would encourage you to bring as part of that as well. So we talk about Microsoft, we talk about Solentive. How does it all fit together? There are, like I said, there's these great resources that Microsoft have provided. You can grab them from Microsoft's website for free. There's the Copilot Adoption Playbook and Success Kit, and lots of great information in there, broken into phases, very easy to understand, very easy to follow and to set you up for success. And then complementing that, wrapping around that is, where specialist consultancy sits, and this is what we specialize in at Solentive. And as you can see, there's a number of other aspects to think about, and what we help with is almost the phase 0 of this process, because we want you to be successful. So Microsoft have built this amazing technology that's easy to use, and we want to make sure that your business is ready and set up for it. So quite a lot of content here today. We'll share the recording and the deck with you. So some things to think about, some key takeaways for how you can succeed. We'll consider, do you have a fit for purpose digital strategy? Maybe you've got one, maybe it's out of date. Or maybe you have one and then you need to think about the next step. What level of digital maturity are you at? Thinking about your ways of working. Is it well adopted? Is it rolled out? And some of those important things around data governance, etc. The amplification of what your team is doing. So I think so there's a fair bit there to think about, but once again, to reinforce, think about how you can innovate, how you can do things differently so that you can truly unlock the power of AI.
Thanks so much. Appreciate that, Pete. I'll get you to stay here. That's on my next slide there. So we'll just have a quick chat before we go to that one. So thanks so much for the insight. Again, I'll get us a step forward so they can see our beautiful faces here. There's certainly a lot to consider there. And I guess something like Copilot to me seems like a great opportunity for us to all sit down as a team and redefine our ways of working, right?
Yep.
Like to make sure that, hey, are we doing things as optimally as possible? And then Copilot can come in and complement that, right?
Yep, 100%.
So thank you so much for going through a deep dive into that. And I'm sure we're just scratching the surface. Now, a question has come through and it's got me thinking that if I was a CEO or a leader of a company or a business, it's all about cost and time analysis,
Yep.
isn't it? So this question triggered something for me. I'd love your input. So the question is, what are the measurable outcomes or KPIs we should track to know whether Copilot implementation in our organization is even worth it?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Brendan. So I guess there's a couple of ways you can think about that. First is as an organization, what are your KPIs that you track today? Something that you can measure that when you're going to bring in an initiative, do you expect to, what do you expect to see in terms of the result there? Is it, how time is spent? Is it, I guess the time to solve a particular problem or launch a new product or provide some sort of a service? What sort of time is there at the organization level? And then it's helpful at an individual level if people have an awareness of how they're spending their time today, just as a baseline. You don't need to, track things in fine granularity, but how much time do you find that you're spending to do your job day to day, so that when you then start bringing in Copilot, then you can see the measurable impact on that. Now, that's in terms of, I guess, the business KPIs, which hopefully businesses will be tracking, but Microsoft has these great tools to make that easy as well. So in addition to the great stuff you already get in Microsoft 365 with the adoption score and the usage summaries about how engaged are people with what you've already invested in Microsoft 365 in terms of Teams collaboration, there's also a great Copilot dashboard as well that comes in, and it can help give you the same kinds of insights there as well. So all very measurable.
Yeah. Look, and I think that was something that came up in our live seminar that we had about a month ago. The idea about how something like Copilot could seem like cheating, but at the end of the day, now we're looking at it differently. It's like, hey, if you're not using it, you're being almost ineffective or a bit lazy maybe, right? So there's a way that we can actually keep your eyes on your stuff. So that's really cool. So thank you for that insight. I'm going to keep you here, and I'm going to invite Phil back on stage here. So we only have a short amount of time to do a little last Q&A. So I thought I'd get the gang together and throw a few questions at you guys. There's a few fun ones in here actually to finish this off, and a few other questions here which I'll put in a follow-up for our attendees. So the first one, I'm going to throw this one at Phil. This is an interesting one that was quite funny, I found. So if I'm nicer to Copilot, is it going to give me better answers, or is it going to serve me better? Does it change the way it operates if I'm nicer?
I haven't got a definitive answer than that, but I do feel that it does. I think it seems to take on your tone in the reply that it gives to you. So if you're more factual, it comes back factual. If you become professional, it's more professional. If you're kind to it, it's kind to you. Right. So I do put in, please find me, and I'll even say thank you. Even when I use this one and I talk to it, as long as there's not too much noise around, it's kind of nice to talk to somebody and say, thank you. Oh, you're very welcome, Phil. Is there anything else I can help you with? Instead of, that's it, just cut off the conversation. So, look, I don't have a definitive answer for you. I haven't got an engineering answer to you. But my experience, be nice to people, they'll be nice to you. Treat AI as you'd have AI treat you.
A little bit of gratitude goes a long way, doesn't it? Yeah. It's nice to have an extra friend in in your pocket or something like that. Okay, cool. So I guess the other one, which I want both of your input on this one actually, but we'll go to Pete first. So we've talked a lot about how much time you can get back in your week. What do you do with your spare time now that you've got it back to you?
Well, what I find is that in terms of the time savings I get, because we have quite a fast-paced environment and lots of things to do all the time, I find that I'm spending more time on the higher value tasks. The administrative tasks that I would otherwise do are now greatly reduced, and then I can focus on what is sort of unique and what really requires more attention. And so my capacity overall has gone up in terms of getting throughput, which is great. and also those times where it's a bit less hectic, then it is an opportunity, a bit of work-life balance, and get out there and walk the dog on a nice day, and sort of get a bit of that, I guess, fresh air.
And I'm sure that gives you a lot more internal energy to be able to really put towards those valuable tasks that you have, right? If you have more time outside of it to build your relationships and take care of yourself, really, right? So
time to reflect.
Yeah.
It's good.
What about you, Phil? What are you doing with your extra spare time?
Look, 100% with what Peter was saying. I find that those mundane tasks tend to go out of my life. Those kind of laborious things about creating a PowerPoint presentation, suddenly it can be done in a fraction of the time. And I get to do a fair bit of PowerPoint presentations in my role, but if it can halve the amount of time because it's drawing other content to summarize that, or taking it from my team's conversation or some emails and I can point it at that and not do it, but be a co-pilot to help me get further along. So then what do I do with the extra time? Well, actually it's a kind of an edict in Microsoft. Spend more time on relationships, both work relationships with the people who are cohorts like you guys, or even with customers, or with your partner, as you point about the work-life balance element. The other thing that specifically for me as a technologist they've advocated is take a day a week, because that's what I'm getting back on learning. Wow. So we now have Fridays as a technical person is a allocated learning day, and they're really good. Work organises through Copilot a set of learning for me to consider, not mandate, but to consider on that a Friday for me to go and do. So I'm looking forward to this Friday. There's about 4 different sessions I'm going to go and do on very different learning aspects, not all technical. Some of those are to do with personal health coaching and well-being and leadership skills, presentation coaching skills. So it's not just discipline around the work, it's helping you become, dare I say, a better person in the planet. So less transactional, more relationship and learning. And I think I mentioned to you before we started the webinar that I'm getting 2 hours back a day. A day.
That's huge.
This is huge. Now it's taken a lot of habit changing to get there, but I know that, and I think I shared with you earlier, that I know that because in the old days, before the Copilot, I'd be in my study at 6 o'clock in the evening and the wife would knock on the door, come and have dinner, have a glass of wine, let's feed the dog, get that done, and I wouldn't get out till 8. Now I'm out at 5 to 6, keen to go and do that, glass of wine, feed the dog, help my wife cook a meal, have a conversation about the grandchildren and things like that. So it's 2 hours. And I'm not stressed about tomorrow when I've got a whole bunch of other stuff to do, because I know the Copilot's going to help me do that.
So what I'm hearing is that it's really elevating our lives as a whole. I think there's a fear maybe with this AI and automation that we end up, automating everything and we become zombies. But really, at the end of the day, it frees you up for really meaningful things like learning and relationships and your health and well-being. And that's going to make us live longer, right? So how good is that?
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. There's definitely more questions here, but we're running out of time, so we'll leave it at that for today. But thanks so much, Pete and Phil. I appreciate it
very much.
I'll let you guys exit.
And thank you too, Pete. And thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks so much, guys. As we wrap up today, just the last couple of things here. So just a suggested follow-up here. So we suggest that maybe you have a bit of an internal review and speak with your team, your staff, and just sort of speak about some of the things you might have learned today and just see how you can go about integrating anything we've talked about today. So we'll stay connected as well. So we're going to send you a follow-up with the recording and the slide deck, as I mentioned. I'll also reach out to you guys personally just to sort of see if there's any feedback or any extra questions you might want to ask some of our experts. But feel free to get in touch with us. You can go to www.solentive.com or you can find any details in our follow-up content. And lastly, we do have an exclusive offer that you can take advantage of as a result of this webinar, which is going to be a free AI assessment where we look at all those things that we talked about today to see if your business is actually ready to adopt something like Copilot, because we don't want to just switch it on before we're ready to do it. But that offer is only available until December 6, 2024. So if that interests you, that's something we want to get onto straight away. But guys, thanks so much for today. I hope you got so much out of this, just as I did, and we will see you next time.